What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we have got our Week 14 NFL game picks, outright versus the spread, along with our locks of the week. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe. Also, check us out online at adpfantasy.com. Thank you for everyone showing their support. If you haven't already, check out the website, become a part of the free newsletter, and get early exclusive access to content. Also, become a member and get personalized fantasy advice. All the details in the description, but for now, let's get right into it. Kicking things off on Thursday Night Football, we've got a clash between two 6-6 teams in the Dallas Cowboys at the Chicago Bears. Last time we saw both these teams play was on Thanksgiving. The Cowboys getting absolutely trounced by the Bills, while the Bears took care of business versus the Lions, even though Blau gave them some scares here and there, and the Lions were kind of close in that game, closer than they should have been considering they were with their third string quarterback. But that's been the MO for both of these squads. They've got talented players, but they've just been extremely disappointing. Now for the Chicago Bears, it's because of the quarterback position. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. While for the Cowboys, statistically speaking, offensively, they put up great numbers. Defensively, they're a decent unit. Just it hasn't clicked on a week-to-week basis. They can't beat those better teams, and they're just not consistent. If you ask me to break down this matchup, well, offensively, I think the Cowboys have an advantage at every single position, from the line to the running back to the quarterback to the wide receivers. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the Cowboys are going to win this game. In fact, I think it's more of a coin flip. Now, luckily for the Cowboys, they're in the NFC East, so even if they lose here, which is a very real possibility, well, the Eagles have the chance to screw up even worse, as we saw last week. Well, for the Bears, even though a lot of people are saying, hey, the Bears are back, they're not going to be making the playoffs. No chance they catch the Vikings or Seattle or San Fran for that wild card spot. Their season remaining schedule is absolutely brutal. So even if they win here, I think that's all she wrote for the Bears. And like I said, very real possibility that the Bears win. What I actually think this game will come down to, putting a little bit of a caveat on it, is what version of the Dallas defense shows up. Is it one that's a little bit more stingy, or one that allows for those ideal conditions for Trubisky to be a serviceable quarterback? Because that's the only time when Trubisky is actually worth a damn, is when he faces defenses like the Detroit Lions or the New York Giants or the Washington Redskins. You get the point. What I think will happen here is I'd probably put my money on it being a lower scoring game. We haven't really seen anything from the Bears offense that's been all that impressive all season long. While for the Cowboys, we've seen some nice things offensively, but they are going up against a very good Bears defense that, as good as it was last year, this year, in terms of a points allowed perspective, they're actually even better. So I think it'll be a competitive game. This game is in Chicago, which advantage to the Bears outside, December weather in Chicago. But I still tend to give the ever so slight advantage to the Cowboys, I believe, because of the offensive advantages that they have. I think, again, it's a coin flip, and this is why I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to take the Cowboys outright, which honestly, I don't mind if you take the Bears there either, but I love the Bears on the spread. I'm hedging my bets there. It's plus 2.5 for Chicago. So we're going Cowboys outright, but Chicago on the spread. Next, we've got a divisional clash between the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers 5-7, the Falcons 3-9, and this game has absolutely no playoff implications. In fact, the Panthers, coming off the firing of Ron Rivera, unfortunate, he's a good head coach. They will struggle finding a replacement that's as good as him. And kind of unfair considering that Cam Newton's been injured these last two seasons, and you can only do so much when your starting quarterback is out and you depend so much on him offensively. But after a loss to the Washington Redskins last week, where the defense got absolutely dominated, and the score wasn't all that close if it wasn't for that onside kick recovered by the Panthers late, that was the low of lows for the Panthers, and you knew changes were coming. While the Falcons, they're 3-9. They still haven't fired Quinn, but maybe that will come in a couple weeks or at the end of the season. They lost to the New Orleans Saints last week, and again made that score a little bit more respectable with a couple of their own onside kick recoveries. But looking at this game, the Falcons at home, They played the Panthers a couple weeks ago in Carolina. They absolutely dominated them behind a great defensive effort and an efficient offensive performance as well. In this game, I don't think we're going to see as dominant of a defensive effort. The unit has kind of come down to earth a little bit. Maybe the Panthers come out, fired up, trying to win this game for Ron Rivera, but I don't think that'll be enough. Offensively, the Falcons will give the Panthers a chance because nobody can protect Matt Ryan. That's been their downfall of this offense this year. Defensively, again, if they can play above average, the Falcons should win this game pretty easily. The Panthers can't stop the run at all. I think Devonta Freeman will have a pretty nice day, and I don't think Matt Ryan will have to do all that much through the air. It's definitely going to help that Julio Jones is expected back as well. Maybe we see a bounce back performance from Christian McCaffrey, who had an off game last week, which again, you see what happens when he isn't in superhuman shape. The Panthers offense can't really do anything. But either way, I think this spells out Falcons win all the way. The spread only -2.5 for the Falcons. I like them to win this game. I think they can pull away late. Kyle Allen is turnover prone, so factor that into the case here when looking at the spread. I think Falcons win by at least a touchdown. I like them outright and on the spread. Next, we've got the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. The Ravens 10-2 after winning versus the San Francisco 49ers, courtesy of a game winner by Justin Tucker in those torrential conditions. And after a Patriots loss, they are now the number 1 seed in the AFC. Big deal for them. While the Buffalo Bills 9-3, great win over the Dallas Cowboys. And quietly, they're pretty much cemented in the playoffs as a wild card team. And hell, maybe if the Patriots slip up, which I don't think will happen, the Bills could give them a scare for the division as well. But in order for that to happen, they are going to need to beat the Ravens, even though it's a home game for the Bills, and they're coming off a very impressive victory over the Cowboys. I don't see them stopping the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Look, Lamar gave you the one human game he's probably going to put up this entire season versus San Fran. And it took a rain that was nonstop all game long. And it took a great defensive unit, probably the best in the league, for him to look like that. I think he's going to bounce back versus this Bills team. And that's impressive considering this Bills defense, it's not a bunch of slouches. They're a good unit. While the Bills offense, look, they've got Josh Allen, they've got pieces, and they were able to put up points versus the Dallas Cowboys, but this Ravens defense is a lot tougher. And with the fast pace of play of the offense, with how much time they use up, the defense is usually pretty well rested. And I think maybe the Bills potentially hang in here for a little while, but the Ravens, they're just too good. They put up too many points in bunches. I don't think the Bills can go ahead and hang with them. The spread is +5.5. And like I said, maybe for the first 2 quarters, it'll be within that range. But I do expect the Ravens to go ahead and pull away later in this game. Now, I'll go ahead and give some credit to this Bills defense. Maybe they hold the Ravens to like 24, 27 points, something like that. And they put up 17 or 20, something around those realms. But again, either way, I think the Bills end up losing a heartbreaker, a game that's going to pretty much cement them as the top wildcard spot in the AFC, which isn't a bad thing. On the spread, +5.5 for the Bills. So I will take the Ravens outright and on the spread. I think they can win by at least a touchdown. Moving on, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns. Divisional clash. First time these two teams are playing, but when it comes to breaking down this game, we have to start with the fact that the Bengals are winless no more. Congratulations, Cincinnati. You are now 1-11, and we said it all season long. Andy Dalton gives this team the best chance to win, and wouldn't you know it, when he's reinserted back into this offense, it's a lot more potent, and the Bengals have a chance to take down a dysfunctional team in the Jets, kind of like how we predicted last week. And now they have one more win than they started with in week 1. While the Cleveland Browns, they're 5-7, and they pretty much blew their chances of making the playoffs as a wild card as they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. Just ugly all around for Cleveland. Pretty much any time they've had a chance to go ahead and go on a little bit of a streak, they let you down offensively. Defensively as well, considering it was versus Devlin Hodges, even more so. And even though I'd like the Browns to win this, what amounts to a meaningless game, I think the score could be closer than we expect. The spread kind of high at -8.5 for the Browns. I don't give them that much respect. Offensively, they're as inconsistent as you have. And the Bengals, like I said, with Andy Dalton under center, he's playing for his NFL future. You better believe he's going to be at peak Andy Dalton, which, good or bad, it gives you opportunities. Now, the Browns, I think this is a simple game plan. I think they just run the ball down the throat of the Cincinnati Bengals. I expect big days from Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And that's as simple as it needs to be. This Bengals defense is not good. I mean, the Browns defense isn't anything special, but it's better. The offense definitely has more playmakers. That won't necessarily amount to, again, a lot of points being scored or a lot of consistent play. But again, slight edge talent-wise to the Browns, even though they've proven that doesn't mean a damn thing when talking about them. Freddie Kitchens is gone after this season. The guy had no business being a head coach, but that doesn't really matter. That's a conversation for another time. What I'm trying to say here is I like the Browns outright. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bengals pull it off and actually get the upset outright. But with the spread kind of being almost at double digits, I'm going to take the Bengals there. I think they kind of keep it somewhat close. Andy Dalton will go ahead and keep this respectable. So I'll take Cincinnati on the spread. Next, we've got the Denver Broncos at the Houston Texans. The Broncos 4-8 after beating the LA Chargers yet again. Or maybe I should say after the Chargers found a way to lose yet again. But that's neither here nor there. The Houston Texans 8-4 coming off maybe one of their biggest wins of the season after they took down the New England Patriots last week. Huge victory for them as they pretty much cement their spot in the playoffs. And now they have a contest with the Broncos, who even though are 4-8, look, they don't really get blown out all that much with the exception of 1 or 2 games. And the spread at -9.5, a little bit high for the Houston Texans. We've seen the offense be inconsistent. The Broncos, even though they're injured defensively, they've still got some pieces to go ahead and challenge you. And honestly, I think this could be somewhat of a trap game here for the Texans. They're riding this high, this wave of momentum after beating the New England Patriots. We kind of saw this after they beat the Kansas City Chiefs earlier on in the season, and then they end up losing to the Indianapolis Colts a week after. So the Broncos, they've got some pieces, and I think they can go ahead and hang in there. Now, I don't think the Texans will lose, but I do think the Broncos can give them a scare. And honestly, the way I see this game playing out, one of two ways. Either the Texans barely win by 3 or 4 points, or they blow out the Broncos. I don't see a scenario where the Texans lose. I will go ahead and say that. And a big reason I believe that is because of Drew Lock, who still very inexperienced. Look, he had a nice game versus the Chargers, but again, the Chargers have their own bundle of issues, even though the Texans defense also not elite. I could see a rookie quarterback who's only getting his second start potentially implode, and that's why I ultimately don't believe in the Broncos. So for that reason, I will take the Houston Texans here to win outright, but on the spread, -9.5, a little bit too high for me. I will take the Broncos there as I think they will stay competitive. Next up, we've got an NFC North divisional clash between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions 3-8-1, coming off a loss that was pretty much expected versus the Chicago Bears. Third-string quarterback David Blau getting the start, but give him some credit. They actually were kind of close in that game, but at the end, the better team won. And you could say the same thing about the Vikings, who are 8-4 after losing to the Seattle Seahawks. Competitive game. They kind of came back, but at the end, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks deserved to win, and they did. Big news for the Vikings in that game. Dalvin Cook getting hurt, shoulder injury, but good news for them. It seems like he avoided a serious injury and expected to return and play versus the Lions. But let's be honest, even though he is their best offensive weapon for the Vikings, they don't need him in this game. They can win without Dalvin Cook. Alexander Mattison can carry the load, but I actually think it'll be Kirk Cousins that dictates this matchup. He had an absolutely gem of a game the first time these two teams played. The Detroit Lions defense, arguably has gotten worse, and offensively, we'll see what Blau can do. but I think the Minnesota Vikings defense will also make some plays and set up the offense even more so. Adam Thielen potentially returning. He was kind of on the fence last week, so that could potentially open things up for the passing attack. Now, the spread here is a little bit concerning, minus 13.5, a little bit too high for me. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Vikings outright. I think they're practically a lock, but the spread, almost 2 touchdowns. The Lions, even without Stafford, kind of impressively have been competitive, haven't really gotten blown out. Even the first time they played the Vikings, they didn't get blown out. So I think they'll be able to go ahead and at least if they lose, it won't be by more than 14 points. So I'll kind of hesitantly take the Lions on the spread. It's a big number, and the Vikings offense, we haven't really seen them blow out anyone. So for that reason, I'll go ahead and take the Lions on the spread, but the Vikings outright. Next, we've got the Washington Redskins at the Green Bay Packers. Somewhat shockingly, the Redskins 3-9 coming off a victory over the Carolina Panthers. I absolutely did not see that coming, but Geis, Adrian Peterson ran all over the Panthers defense, and they could not be stopped. Haskins didn't do anything of note, but apparently it was enough. Now, the Green Bay Packers, they're 9-3. They took care of business versus the New York Giants last week, and I think they'll be able to do the exact same thing here versus the Redskins. In fact, I think they can go ahead and blow out the Redskins because, unlike last week, the Redskins aren't facing an offense that is solely dependent on one player. And this offense that they're facing this week happens to have Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, who's been on fire lately, and he will pick apart subpar defenses, which the Redskins are. I think the Packers jump out to a lead early, which forces the Redskins to abandon the rushing attack, which forces them to put the ball in the hands of Dwayne Haskins, which forces him to throw it more, which increases the chances of turnovers, and the Packers defense will capitalize on those turnovers. This game is in Lambeau. I think the Packers defense has a pretty good outing here as well, and I think this could be a blowout for the Green Bay Packers. I think they're going to absolutely dominate the Redskins. Honestly, I would be shocked if the Redskins put up more than 14, 17 points. If they did, then the Packers defense really struggled here. But like I said, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to absolutely blow up. I think if he doesn't blow up, it's just because the rushing attack of the Packers had a huge day. So either way, I think this offense will be great. I think Haskins is going to have a rough day, and the Redskins get back in the L column. Packers should get the easy win here. It's practically a lock on the spread, minus 12.5. Hell, I think that number should be higher. I'll take the Packers on the spread as well. Next, we've got the Indianapolis Colts at the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Colts 6-6, losing to the Titans, and with that interdivisional loss, I think that's all she wrote for their playoff hopes as a wild card team, unfortunately. While the Bucks 5-7, nice win over the Jaguars, pretty much took care of them, no problem, as Nick Foles was even benched in that game. Now here, however, I think it could be a different story for the Bucks. Now, don't get me wrong, they're favored in this game, and I think all signs point to the Bucks probably winning, but call it a hunch. I like the Colts in this game somewhat pretty confidently, actually. Jacoby Brissett versus Jameis Winston. I think that's going to be a storyline here because at one quarterback, you've got someone that's pretty cautious, pretty smart with the football. Then with Winston, you've got someone that kind of throws it around recklessly, and that turns to a lot of turnovers. And this Colts defense, they've got some playmakers, and they could take advantage of that offensively. Their offensive line is great, so they might surprise some people and might actually have some success rushing the football. Marlon Mack expected to come back, even though I don't know how much of a factor he will be. Just a couple of weeks removed from that broken hand, I'd probably still give him another week to rest, considering the Colts are a long shot for the playoffs. But Jacoby Brissett versus his Tampa Bay secondary, I think he will have a good day, even though the Colts are hurting at the pass-catching position. They've still got weapons, Pascal, Jack Doyle, so don't sleep on those guys. And again, the Bucks, they kind of struggle to rush the football. Winston, he might put up the stats, he might put up the yards, but I think in crunch time, he's going to have a detrimental turnover at the worst possible point. And I think that's what's going to lead the Colts to go into Tampa Bay and get this victory. I like them to go ahead and get this win outright and on the spread, since the Bucks are favored at minus 2.5. Adam Vinatieri might not play. That might be a blessing in disguise if this comes down to a field goal kicking competition. So I'm going to take the Colts to go ahead and bounce back and get the upset here on the road. Continuing on, we have got a contest between the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. The Dolphins 3-9. Forget about tanking. Ryan Fitzpatrick just took down the Philadelphia Eagles as that Miami offense exploded versus the Philadelphia secondary, while the New York Jets 4-8. Are you kidding me? They just lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. That offense was absolutely atrocious. The Jets defense is hurting, and I would not be shocked if they lose this game again. The first time these two teams played, the Jets gave the Dolphins their first win of the season. That's how bad they have been. That's how dysfunctional they have been. I think the Miami Dolphins can go ahead and absolutely win this game. On the spread, -5.5 for the Jets. Are you that comfortable in Sam Darnold and in this Jets offense and this Jets team as a whole? Now, I know Sam Darnold will have a bounce back effort because this Miami defense is that bad. But look, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's no slouchy either. I have more faith in him than I do in Sam Darnold, and this Jets defense can be had as well. So I got to give the edge to the quarterback that I have more faith in, that I think is more clutch, that's more confident, that is more efficient. And all signs right now point to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I actually think that this will be a really high-scoring game because of the two defenses that are involved. But in the end, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think Fitzmagic is in full effect here. I think the Dolphins get the upset and sweep the New York Jets. I'll take the more experienced quarterback in Fitzpatrick over the young Sam Darnold. Give me the Miami Dolphins on the road to win outright and on the spread. Next, we have got one of our first marquee games of the week with the San Francisco 49ers at the New Orleans Saints. Both teams at 10-2. This game has huge playoff implications for the 49ers after that tough loss for the Baltimore Ravens. Sure, they looked good, maybe moral victory, but now after they lost, they are now a wild card team as Seattle continues to win. And the Saints, look, sure, they wrapped up the division. That's nice. They don't have to worry about that. But they want to go ahead and have a chance at a first week bye in the playoffs, so they need to continue on winning so that the Packers don't catch up with them. Very important game for the Saints. I think this could go ahead and be a similar contest to what we saw with the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, we're not going to have to worry about subpar conditions as this game will be in the Dome. Perfect conditions, in fact. And even though this 49ers defense is excellent, I do think they were aided by the fact that last week it was a torrential downpour with the Ravens. Keep that in mind. And we've seen them go ahead and have a lot of points put up on them with guys like Kyler Murray, with guys like Russell Wilson. Now, they were interdivisional games, so maybe that is a part of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually lower scoring. But either way, I think it'll be competitive. That's what I'm trying to get at. Whether it's 20-17 or 30-27, I think it'll be a very competitive game where both teams have a chance to win. Now, at the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to the Saints at home. I think that's what the difference here will be. The Saints defense has played well as of late, and I think this home field advantage is the difference here. If this game was in San Francisco, I would feel a lot better about taking the 49ers 100%. I will take the Saints outright, but on the spread, I will hedge my bets here a little bit because I could see the 49ers defense flexing its muscles and giving opportunities for Jimmy Garoppolo to win. Whether the 49ers win or not, I think that will happen. I think the 49ers defense will put the 49ers offense in good opportunities to score. The question is, will Jimmy Garoppolo respond? So for that reason, because of all those possible opportunities, I think the 49ers can cover the spread. It's a really low spread here. You almost want to go ahead and pick the Saints if you like them outright, since they're at only -2.5. But like I said, since I could see the 49ers very easily winning this game, hedging my bets here a little bit and going with the 49ers on the spread. Next, we've got the LA Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars, both teams 4-8. no playoffs for either team. But one of these teams continues to find even more heartbreaking ways to lose week in and week out, and that's obviously the Chargers, as their loss versus the Broncos last week, after they go ahead, tie it, seems like they're going to overtime, but then a huge PI call to give the Broncos the win via game-winning field goal. Are you kidding me? I feel so bad for the Chargers. I genuinely do. They have all the talent in the world offensively. I don't think Phil Rivers is washed up quite yet. I still think he has some game left in him, and they've got all the offensive weapons you could want in Eckler and Gordon and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry. So, yes, call me insane, but I like them again outright in this game over the Jaguars. Now, for the Jaguars, the biggest storyline is Nick Foles was benched, so the return of Minshew Mania has resumed. So maybe that offense does get a little bit of a boost. I do think they were gelling more with Minshew under center, more chemistry being developed. So give some credit to the Jaguars here. They're going to hang in this game, but let's be honest, just because the Chargers are involved, this game is not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a 3 or 4 point game late in the fourth quarter, with the Chargers probably down and a chance to win. But are they going to shoot themselves in the foot? That's the question. More often than not, obviously the answer has been yes. But I swear, this is the last time I'm giving the Chargers the benefit of the doubt and picking them outright. Now, for what it's worth, the bettors do agree as the Jaguars are plus 2.5 on the spread. But because I'm doing the unthinkable and picking the Chargers outright, I will hammer the Jaguars on the spread to go ahead and cover our bases. So let's go with it one last time. The Chargers outright, but the Jaguars on the spread. Next, we've got the Tennessee Titans at the Oakland Raiders. The Titans 7-5. Great win for them yet again, this time versus the rival Indianapolis Colts. And this offense has been on fire since Ryan Tannehill took over. Kudos to the coaching staff for making that change. He has absolutely revitalized this team. Whether this will be a long-term thing or not doesn't matter. All that matters is that it's working right now. While the Oakland Raiders got shellacked yet again, they got taken advantage of defensively as the Chiefs absolutely roasted them, and it's kind of coming to fruition. It's 6-6. They're not as good as their record indicated. They have issues. Derek Carr, his play, even though it's been good from time to time, it's been way too inconsistent, and defensively they struggle way too much. I think the Titans are absolutely going to come into town and beat up on the Raiders even more this week. I don't think the Raiders defense is going to be able to stop the Titans, whether it's Tannehill or Derrick Henry. One way or the other, the Titans will put up at least 20 points on this team. Defensively, the Titans pretty good as well. They're not bad, so I think they can cause some issues for the Raiders. And if the Raiders fall behind early, that's all she wrote. The spread plus 2.5, I think that is way too low. Sure, the Titans are favored as they should be, but I think that spread should be a lot higher. I'm going to absolutely hammer the Titans, not only outright, but also on the spread. Right now, that offense is clicking. Ryan Tannehill can do no wrong. And again, versus this Raiders defense, all signs point to him having another winning type of effort for the Titans as they continue to be in competition for an AFC wildcard playoff spot. Moving on, we have got our second marquee game of the week with the Kansas City Chiefs at the New England Patriots. The Chiefs 8-4, absolutely took care of business versus the Raiders last week. We all knew they would, no problem. The big storyline right now for them, if you want to go ahead and focus in on one, is that the running back situation, they have got injuries aplenty, but stop us if you've heard that before. No Darrell Williams, probably no Damian Williams, so Darwin Thompson and LaShawn McCoy. Not that I expect either of them to have all that much success versus this Patriots defense. And speaking of the Patriots, they're 10-2, coming off their second loss of the season, this time versus the Houston Texans. Tough out for them, as now they are no longer the number one seed in the AFC, so the road of the playoffs will not go through Foxborough. The season ended right now, which is a big deal for the Patriots, who play much better at home compared to on the road. And all of a sudden, you hear this chatter for the Patriots even more and more. Tom Brady doesn't have it anymore. Are they done? How much do they really miss Gronk? They don't have enough weapons to be competitive offensively. How long can the defense carry this team? And look, I'm sorry, but this is a funeral that I will be late for. I don't buy into the demise of the Patriots just yet. Even if they lose this game, which is a possibility, I'm not going to discount that. I still think they will do what they do and bounce back in the playoffs, just like they did last season, pretty much in the regular season struggle, and then turn it on in the playoffs and go all the way to the AFC Championship, eventually the Super Bowl, and probably win the whole damn thing yet again. Now, as far as the spread goes here, the Patriots are favored -3.5. So for all those worries, the bettors are still giving the Patriots the benefit of the doubt. And versus this Chiefs defense, I mean, why wouldn't you? If there was ever a game where an offense would bounce back, it would be in this one. I think James White and Julian Edelman are going to have two huge games. Sony Michel as well. I think the Patriots are going to really try to reestablish the run here. And I think this will be a competitive game. Maybe we'll see flashes of Kansas City versus New England of last season. But I will say, on the spread, since it's -3.5, I do believe this will be a competitive game. I wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs win. So I do go ahead and favor the side of the Chiefs on the spread. I think it could be very well a 3-point margin of victory if the Patriots do win. Either way, if the Patriots win, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. So I love the Chiefs on the spread. Next, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Arizona Cardinals. The Steelers 7-5, huge win for them as they took out the Cleveland Browns. And again, they remain smack dab in the middle of the wild card conversation. Hugely impressive considering their quarterback situation. Tomlin has to be in consideration for head coach of the year with the job he's done. While the Arizona Cardinals 3-8-1 absolutely got embarrassed by the Rams last week. Kind of surprising considering that the Cardinals were kind of trending up. The Rams had been struggling, and then the Cardinals go ahead and do that. But again, it shows you that the Cardinals are a young team. They're inconsistent, and they can go ahead and have these type of performances. Now, favorably speaking for them, the Steelers don't have all those weapons that the Rams do. They're down to their third-string quarterback. Juju Smith-Schuster, their number one wide receiver, probably not playing. Same with their number one running back in James Conner. So, you know you're not going to get all that many points scored by the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, on the flip side, gives me more faith in the Cardinals at least making this competitive, making this close, and it betting-wise, covering on the spread, which is what we all kind of care about from that perspective. The spread +2.5. So maybe the Cardinals go ahead and win outright. That wouldn't shock me either. I will put this caveat on it. If it's low scoring, I think the Steelers probably have a little bit of a better chance outright because of that defense. While if it's higher scoring, I'd probably flip it and then say Arizona and the Steelers then on the spread. But for now, I would probably go ahead and guess that it'll be lower scoring. So with all that being said, and with the Cardinals defense just right now not being a good unit, I'm going to go ahead and say the Steelers barely eke out a victory here. They do just enough. The problem is if all of a sudden the Cardinals come out to a big lead and the Steelers have to play catch up, because that's not what this team is designed to do. But I don't think that'll happen with this Steelers defense and with the ups and downs of the Cardinals offense. So in the end, the Steelers outright, but the Cardinals on the spread. I think it'll be a close game, lower scoring. So the Cardinals should have the advantage on the spread. Getting to Sunday Night Football, we've got a divisional clash between the Seattle Seahawks and the LA Rams. The Seahawks at 10-2, huge win over the Minnesota Vikings last week, as now they are in first place in the NFC West, no longer a wild card team. While the LA Rams 7-5, big win over the Cardinals where they blew them out, absolutely clicking on all cylinders offensively. Technically, they're still in the hunt, but I do think it's too little too late for the Rams. But this is one of those NFC West contests where you got to throw out the record. We said that the first time these two teams played, and wouldn't you know it, it was only a 1-point margin of victory for Seattle in Seattle then, and it was a high-scoring affair, which I do think we could see here again. We got that reminder that the Rams have those weapons. Maybe it's come down to play calling and better execution, but they've got the potential to put up points. While the Seattle Seahawks, we know with Russell Wilson under center, they're going to put up points versus whoever you line up against them. So that's just a foregone conclusion. I think this will be a very competitive game yet again. I think we're going to see the big names here ball out. I expect a bounce back performance from Tyler Lockett because I think we're going to see between 30 and 40 points being scored here by the Seattle Seahawks. A good dose of Chris Carson and the revitalized Rashad Penny. For the Rams, Todd Gurley should continue to get more usage. But at the end, in this close game, I said the first time these two teams played, it's close. It comes down to one final possession. Give me Russell Wilson over any other quarterback in the NFL. Certainly over Jared Goff and all the inconsistencies the Rams have had this season. If anything, since the first time these two teams played, I believe the Seattle Seahawks have gotten better and the Rams slightly worse. So I'll take the Seattle Seahawks outright on the road. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I think it'll be competitive. Both teams will have a chance to win. The spread plus 1.5 for the Rams. So even if you want to go with the Rams there, that number is so low that it almost begs you to pick the Seattle Seahawks outright if you like them there, and to also pick them on the spread, which is what I am doing. If the Rams do go ahead and lose, I don't think it's going to be by only 1 point here again. So give me Seattle to win by at least 2, 3, 4 points here outright, and also cover on the spread. Finally, getting to Monday Night Football, we have got the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC divisional clash. And all of a sudden, we have a storyline here, even though the Giants are only 2-10, coming off another loss. Daniel Jones, high ankle sprain. So guess what? Eli Manning probably going to be starting here for the Giants. And actually, I think that is a boost for this Giants offense versus a Philadelphia Eagles team that is at 5-7 and coming off a loss versus the Miami Dolphins, where they absolutely got taken advantage of defensively. So Eli Manning knows this Philadelphia team. I think he has got pretty good rapport with these offensive weapons of the Giants. Potentially Evan Ingram set to return. That's a big weapon for the Giants. And I think the Giants end up hanging in there. The Eagles haven't really blown out anyone all season long. Now, don't get me wrong, they are the better team, especially at home here. I think that they have the better quarterback. I think they have the better defense. And with that rush defense, I think they will continue to stifle Saquon Barkley, who, honestly, again, we said it last week, hasn't really been himself since he returned from injury. That's a big reason why this Giants offense is also struggling. But wouldn't be surprised if with Eli Manning, the Giants give the Eagles a little bit of a scare. I'm going to still take the Eagles outright because this Giants defense can be had, because Eli Manning is still Eli Manning and he's still turnover prone. He still doesn't have the mobility that Daniel Jones had. And this offensive line of the Giants does have some issues. So I like the Eagles to have a good game, potentially get to the quarterback, force some turnovers, but I do think the Giants will get theirs as well, which, even though I like the Eagles outright, is why I will take the Giants on the spread, as right now it's at -8.5, a little bit of a bigger number. If Daniel Jones was under center, I would feel more comfortable taking the Eagles there, but with Eli Manning, knowing this opponent so well, I will take the Giants on the spread. So with that, we wrap up our pick'ems. Now looking at our locks of the week, we start with the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. Give me the Ravens here. The Bills haven't really faced anyone like the Ravens so far. Great win for them versus the Cowboys, but the Ravens are on a whole nother level. Lamar Jackson got his one kind of human game out of the way this season. I think he bounces back versus the Bills, and Buffalo just can't keep up with this high-octane offense and game style of the Ravens. Next, Detroit at Minnesota. Give me the Vikings here all day long. Feel pretty confident about this one. No Dalvin Cook, no problem, even though he is expected to play. If Adam Thielen doesn't suit up again, no problem. I think Kirk Cousins will have a huge game like he did the first time these two teams played. Since then, the Detroit Lions arguably have gotten worse, down to their third-string quarterback. I think the Vikings defense will also have something to say about this game. Give me the Vikings. Next, Washington at Green Bay. Green Bay all day long. The most confident pick I have out of all of our locks. No way Dwayne Haskins is able to keep this offense going, as the Green Bay Packers will more than likely come out to a huge lead and then force the Redskins to throw. That's all she wrote, Green Bay there. Next, Indianapolis at Tampa Bay. I like the Colts. I said it. I have a sneaky suspicion that the Bucs are going to go ahead and have a letdown here. Winston versus Jacoby Brissett. I will go with the quarterback that takes care of the football, a little bit more cautious versus a secondary that can be had. So give me the Colts there. And finally, Tennessee at Oakland. Right now, this Oakland defense is being beaten and taken advantage of by everyone. The Titans, with Tannehill under center, are clicking a lot better offensively than before. With Derrick Henry as well doing his thing, I think those two guys will be detrimental in this victory. The Titans all the way over the Raiders. And with that, we wrap things up. And as usual, let me hear it in the comment section. Did you agree, disagree with these picks, along with any other questions you guys might have? If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Also, check us out online at adpfantasy.com. All the details in the description, but you get a bunch of perks by joining the ADP community. So check that out. And in the meantime, I'll see you guys in future videos.